Kia ora, good evening. Concerns raised by members of the public about poor driving behaviour from tourists has fast-tracked safety improvements to Southland roads. The Associate Minister of Transport announced today the Visiting Driver's Signature project will be fast-tracked to be completed by July this year. The project will see safety improvements made to state highways in Southland and Otago and will now be extended as far as the West Coast. The project comes after recent crashes involving overseas visitors and will focus on places which attract large numbers of tourists. Changes to roads include 50 kilometres of centre-line rumble strips, 140 k's of no passing markings and an extra 200 k's of highway marked with keep left arrows. These safety improvements will be in addition to a range of measures already in place in the region. Invercargill police are requesting assistance from the public and urging people to secure their vehicles after a number of cars were either damaged or broken into.
A number of vehicles in the Richmond area were damaged between Saturday 1st and Monday 3rd of March. A key or similar instrument was used to scratch and damage the vehicles. Police are also warning about an increase in the number of vehicles broken into in the South Invercargill area, as well as a number of cars broken into and damaged at a commercial property on Space Street on Sunday night. Police are urging people to secure their cars and anyone who sees any suspicious activity to call 111 immediately.
Paymark figures released today show foreign card spending was up a significant amount on last year, reflecting ongoing growth in tourist numbers. Visitors to New Zealand spent over $250 million in February, up over 14% on the same time last year. Whilst total spending growth was a moderate 4.3%, foreign card spending accounted for 12.6% of all credit card spending. Paymark processed credit card transactions from 148 foreign countries during February. The number of monthly card transactions for Southland was 1.1% higher than February last year, but unlike most regions, Southland's annual growth rate was down 3%. Paymark said the moderate growth for the month reflects the February trend when people return to work and the school year begins. The children of Gore will soon have a new space to play thanks to a dedicated committee who are thinking about the town's youngest generation. The purpose-built Gore Kids Hub will be located behind the Gore Multisport Complex and will provide a new home for several of the town's community groups that cater to children.
It started because we had three organisations that all needed to find new homes in Gore for various reasons, expensive leases or leases expiring, and the three presidents of the organisations got together and got talking about we should just get one place with one roof over the heads for all of us and reduce our overheads by sharing.
So these groups include who?
Gore's Parent Centre, Play Centre and Toy Library were the three that got it going, and we've driven it to this stage, and more recently Bernardo's Kids Start's come on board as well.
So the knoll of the hill behind us is where this is going to be built. Explain to us what the building's like.
Absolutely. So the building, it's a large building that's going to go right across the width of the site, and it will have separate spaces for the Toy Library and the Parent Centre and the Play Centre, and then on the end there'll be an office space and a clinical consultation room that Bernardo's Kids Start will use, as well as a meeting room and that kind of thing. And then there's going to be a large purpose-built playground for under 5 children, also at the very far end of the site. So purpose-built for under 5s, fully surfaced, fully fenced, be a fantastic facility.
The budget for that alone is $300,000. That sounds like quite an amazing playground.
It'll be something else, and having fully surfaced so that crawling kids are safe and not going to get hurt is such an asset.
Is it going to be a user-paid situation?
On the whole, the community's funding this project through grants, organisations and things like that, and business support and all those kinds of things. So as much as we can, we're keeping the costs free, particularly for not-for-profit organisations and other community businesses that might choose to use it. It will be a very low cost.
There could be an option to expand, perhaps looking at midwives and Gore Health immunising from the site as well.
Yeah, we're talking to everyone and anyone who has something to do with families with kids under 5. We'd love this to be a real hub where everything that parents need to do with their kids is done in the one spot to make life really easy for parents.
What is the budget, Bernadette, and how is it being funded?
The total budget's $1.6 million, or approximately. It's not 100% finalised yet, but it's being funded. We've just had confirmed $600,000 from the Matata Licensing Trust, which is based on pokie machines. And we've also had $200,000 from the Play Centre Association confirmed. We've got applications in now with Community Trust of Southland and Lotteries Commission, and then the remainder we're doing through major fundraising events.
What's the timeline for the build?
We hope it'll all be up, ready to go by the end of this year, by the end of 2015, and we plan to open our doors from the new building at the start of the 2016 school year.
Cyclists throughout the country will soon be gearing up for a grand battle of the islands. The Tour of New Zealand is back for the third time, and cyclists will be racing from either Caprianga or Bluff to meet at the Beehive for the ultimate face-off. For 7 days and 700 kilometres, the race attracts big names from around the world, some of which may be making history on Stewart Island.
We've got the champions of the north will fight the champions of the south in the grounds of the Beehive in a criterium, so we establish the winner of the Tour of New Zealand. We've pitched it for weekend warriors, for social riders, for people who really want to see New Zealand on a bike, and we have some hot riders as well. So we've made it a middling tour that attracts people who have fun riding bikes and people who really want to race bikes. We have some real iconic people like the chairman of the cricket selectors, Bruce Edgar, and the chap who rode across the Atlantic, Rob Hamill, and Rod Oram, the journalist, and all sorts of key figures that ride bikes who want to get and raise some money for charity and see New Zealand the way you should see it.
The day before the whole thing kicks off, you're actually going to do a bit of a tester on Stewart Island at Oban, which will be, of course, their first ever cycle race on the island.
Absolutely, it's just such an exciting thing, and they're all ready for us. The promotion group are there. They're putting up cyclists. We're putting up our cyclists, and we're going to have this little race on the island. And they're going to finish up with a barbecue. They're going to make us feel very welcome, and it might be the start of big things. And next year we may start the whole race on Stewart Island, if it works well.
What a fabulous idea. Now, who is the charity that will be the recipient from fundraising this year?
There's 5 charities, and Heart Foundation, Tier Fund. There's St John Ambulance, and there's a couple of lesser known ones putting bikes in schools for those decile schools, and also for cancer research for pancreatic cancer, led by the Prime Minister's heart surgeon from Auckland who's riding, and it'll be really exciting to raise money for them. There's a wonderful reaction to the race because it's not at all commercial, it's all done entirely for the charities, and all the riders, they are out there raising money and getting friends and family and colleagues and all sorts of business colleagues to put money into the pot, and so that it all goes straight to the charity. We don't get it, it goes straight to the charity, and it builds up into a big pot. And we're hoping to raise $250,000 this year.
Stay with us after the break. Art house films return to the city and a modern leap for Matata. Welcome back. It's been 3 years since its last screening, but the Invercargill Film Society's big screen has come back to life.
For 2 decades, the Society screened films in Invercargill before going into recess due to being unable to source new technology. But thanks to a new partnership with the Southern Institute of Technology and its centre stage facilities, the show will go on. Last night saw the Society's first screening of art house film Blue Jasmine, and President Anna Rodin said it was a fantastic turnout with almost 180 people attending. The Film Society signed over 100 people and said they were expecting to grow as the screenings continue. The Society said it will screen non-mainstream movies every week in a bid to grow the capital culture of the city. The next screening will be US film The Butler on Wednesday, March 11, 7 p.m. at Centre Stage on Don Street.
The history of the township of Matata has taken a modern leap, both in its newly refurbished historic building on Kana Street, as well as the museum's cherished collection becoming accessible worldwide. I took a sneak peek at a project that's been in the long-term plan for the past 6 years. The man behind the Matata Museum makeover says the result is not your typical cottage decked out in pioneer chattels telling the Pākehā story. Instead, the focus is on keeping it fresh with interactives and 6 monthly rotations. Matata's history is steeped in industry, and there's a room dedicated to enterprise of the area.
We've taken major themes, as you'd expect, of the freezing works, the paper mill, coal, and then the smaller support industries around those biggies. The interactives for this room, I went to the Film Archive in Wellington, and they had archival footage of the Matara works at work in the 1930s. So we grabbed that, edited it down into fun clips, showing the solo butchers, how they dealt with the byproducts, the carcasses going off and being put in slings into the holds of ships off to England. and then compared it with current footage of the robotics and the sheep changes before they closed.
A major part of the $250,000 project was the digitisation of the collection, which now can be viewed online through New Zealand Museum. One story that shows the strength of the exercise is that of local man Stan White.
As a teenage boy, worked in the Matata freezing works. He packed these livers, he's a bit of a dag. He wrote his name, address, please write to me, put it on top of the liver billies. They were frozen and sent to England. A health officer checked the consignment, found Stan's notes and wrote back to him. We have this wonderful set of correspondence between the two men. Aubrey led in talks about what it was like in England during the war, to live through the Blitz, rationing, what it was like rebuilding London and surrounds after the war. We put the letters online, and Aubrey's son Jeff found them. When his dad died in the late 60s, Jeff's brother-in-law chucked all his dad's papers out, so he didn't have anything to remember his dad by. So when he found these really personal and eloquent letters, it was so moving for him. And so much so that he came out to New Zealand to meet Stan and complete that wonderful circle. So for us, that was a real validation of the digitisation project that we've done.
Local figures give first-person accounts of the historical connections with the township, bringing a sense of life to the museum.
We've invited 12 locals to share their connection with Matara and basically share their Matara story. And we've tried to choose people that are representative of the sector.
You've also got an old-style wall-hung telephone that you've incorporated an iPod into, which again is another rotational story.
Yeah, and there's a plinth in the middle of the room and the two link. So just mixing up the storytelling technique. And the great thing again is if you can get a first-person account of why an item or an object is important to someone, it's just got that certain je ne sais quoi.
The 50-metre square Clematis cottage was built in 1883 and purchased by Jim Spooner in the mid-20s. He raised his 8 children there as a solo father, later selling the property in the 80s.
The two cottages were built at the same time, and you have this great before and after snapshot without us having to take any photos. This building, we stripped it to bits, rebuilt it, and insulated it, re-roofed, did everything that you would expect to make it safe to house heritage objects in.
Lovely cottage gardens, heritage fruit trees.
What we wanted to do was create a sense of energy, colour and fun. So the cottage garden and the wonderful flowers achieve that, and the wildflower garden out the back. And we're surrounded by old orchards. So we thought we would take that theme and have planted a series of fruit trees, espalier style, to surround the wildflower garden. And it's looking stunning.
On-site storage was an essential component to keeping rotational pieces safely kept, and thousands of work hours have gone into packing the collection. Today's soft opening was a chance for David and his dedicated team of volunteers to reintroduce the museum to community supporters ahead of its official opening on Saturday, coinciding with Southland Heritage Month. Margot Sutherland, South Today News. And now let's take a look at the highs and lows from around the country.
Your forecast on Q is brought to you by Environment Southland. Environment Southland wants to know what you think about our recreational water areas. Where do you go? What do you do? And your thoughts about the water quality. You could win one of 5 $100 vouchers simply by completing their survey. The survey will help them find out whether the water is being tested in the right places and how the service can be improved. Complete the survey online by going to Environment Southland's website or pick up a hard copy from Environment Southland, the Southland District Council, Gore District Council, Invercargill City Council or Public Health South.
And taking a look at our weather today for Thursday, the 5th of March. Auckland coming in on 25 degrees today, along with Christchurch and Dunedin. Wellington recorded 24 degrees, Queenstown 21, 22 for Gore and Invercargill, and 21 the high for Stewart Island. Change is in the air tomorrow. Rain developing early morning, easing to a few showers with a strong southwest change from late morning. Clearing in the afternoon, winds easing and turning easterly in the evening. Invercargill expecting a high of 18 and 17 for Tuatapere and Gore. Overnight low of 8 for nightcaps, climbing to a high of 17, 18 for Te Anau and Queenstown tomorrow. To the marine forecast for FOVO, there's a gale warning in force, northeast 25 knots to southwest 35 knots. Sea becoming very rough for a time and poor visibility in rain for a time. And for Pusiga, northerly 60 knots to southwest 35 knots, a northwest swell of 4 metres to southwest 3 metres. And in the long range forecast, for Saturday, patchy morning cloud followed by showers in the afternoon with southwesterlies developing strong about the coast at first. A few showers developing in the afternoon on Sunday, northwesterlies strengthening and cloudy periods and a few showers with westerlies on Monday. And that's it from us tonight. Tom's along with sport very shortly. From the news team though, it's good evening.